Hello, and welcome to my book talk. It's all about finding your voice by Mackenzie Science. Have you ever felt like your voice didn't matter or that speaking up might change everything? Today, I'm sharing 3 books about teens who learn to trust themselves, speak honestly, and find strength to be heard. These stories show how powerful it can be when you finally say what you've been holding inside. This first book is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This story follows a 15-year-old named Sierra Mara Batista who lives in Harlem and feels like the world is constantly talking over her. She's noticed for her body before anyone even bothers to learn her name, and people, including her own mother, decide who she's supposed to be before she gets a chance to say it herself. So, Sierra Mara does the only thing that feels safe. She writes. Late at night, sitting on her bedroom floor, she fills her notebook with every thought she's too scared to say out loud about her family, her faith, her body, her dreams, and the things she's starting to feel for a boy in her biology class. Her writing becomes the one place she can be honest. But everything shifts when her English teacher invites her to join the school's spoken word poetry club. Imagine someone finally seeing the talent you've been hiding and telling you, hey, you belong on stage. She wants it so badly. She wants to read her poems out loud. She wants people to hear what she has to say. But there's one huge problem: her mom. Her mother is extremely religious and expects her to devote every part of her life to the church. She doesn't want her hanging out with friends after school, talking to boys, or even questioning anything she's been taught. And when she starts to grow more independent, asking these questions, wants more space, and wanting more love, her mother pushes back harder. At school and around her neighborhood, she tries to blend in, but she can't. People stare because of her curves. Boys make comments, girls assume things. But inside her notebook, she is brilliant, sharp, curious, and funny. She is so much more than what the world sees on the outside. And as the story moves forward, she goes through all of these huge life moments at once: falling in love for the first time, dealing with pressure from her church, trying to support her twin brother who has secrets of his own, and figuring out where she actually fits in with her family. Her poems capture it all. You feel her confusion, her anger, her hope, everything. And then, while finding her voice, it all comes down to the moment when Zia Mara finally steps onto stage at a city-wide poetry slam. It's terrifying, it's emotional, but it's also powerful because she's not hiding anymore. She's choosing to speak even if her voice shakes. What I love most about The Poet X is how it shows that finding your voice doesn't always come from yelling. Sometimes it comes from writing your truth, finding people who will listen, and being brave to say, this is who I am, even when people expect something different from you. This book is raw, lyrical, and intense in the best way. If you've ever felt unheard, misunderstood, or like you've had something to say but you didn't know how to, Theodemata's story will feel real to you, and it just might make you want to pick up your own notebook. The second book is Please Pay Attention by Jamie Sumner. This is a novel in verse, and so it almost reads like a diary. It's raw, honest, and heartbreakingly real. It follows an 8th grader named B, whose entire life is split into 2 parts: before and after. Before, B was figuring out middle school just like everyone else. She has cerebral palsy, so the world isn't always built for her in mind, but she knows who she is: smart, funny, stubborn, and determined. She rolls through her life in her wheelchair, literally and emotionally. She has routines and friendships that help her feel grounded. But then everything changes during a school shooting. B survives, but some of her classmates and her teacher don't. And after that day, nothing feels normal anymore. And while everyone in her community is marching, protesting, making speeches, and talking loudly about change, Bee is quiet, not because she doesn't care, but because she doesn't know how to talk about the moment that keeps replaying in her mind. Being stuck in her wheelchair, unable to move the way others could, unable to hide, unable to help, she feels helpless, guilty, and shaken in a way she can't even describe. While the world rushes to be strong, B feels left behind. And then something unexpected helps her start to heal: therapeutic horseback riding. At first, she's unsure. Why a horse? Why now? But when she sits on the horse for the first time, she feels something she hasn't felt since before the shooting: control, freedom, strength, the ability to move, to breathe, to let emotions rise instead of trapping them. It's not an instant fix. B still struggles with grief, flashbacks, and the pressures of being okay for her family. But with each session, she starts to feel like herself again. She begins to understand that the fear and guilt she carries doesn't mean she's weak. They mean she survived something enormous. Throughout this healing process, and after starting the therapeutic horseback riding, Bee eventually starts to speak up. She finds courage to tell her story, to be honest about what she felt in those terrifying moments, and most importantly, to demand change in her own way. Her voice doesn't sound like everyone else's. It's quieter, steady, and deeply personal. And that's exactly what makes it powerful. What I love about this book is that it doesn't rush for her recovery. It shows the messy and confusing real side of trauma and grief, and it highlights that finding your voice isn't just about being the loudest one in the room. It's about choosing to speak your truth even when it hurts. Bee's story reminds us that bravery looks different for everyone. For her, bravery is showing up, trying again, and saying, "This is what happened to me," even when the world wants to move on. This was Please Pay Attention by Jamie Sumner. The third book I want to share is Asking for a Friend by Kara H.L. Chen. It's very different from the first two. It's lighter in tone, funnier at times, but it still deeply connects to the theme of finding your voice. This story follows Juliana, a girl who is absolutely convinced she understands everything about love. She studies relationships the way other people study for math tests. She gives advice like she's running her own TED Talk. And she's positive, completely unshakably positive, that she's going to win the huge Asian American in business competition, mostly because she's been preparing for this her whole life. But then everything falls apart. Her partner dumps her at the last minute, leaving her scrambling for someone, anyone, to work with. And then she gets stuck with the one person she really didn't want: Garrett, her frenemy, who is unpredictable, blunt, and absolutely not the perfect partner she'd imagine. If she is sunlight and spreadsheets, Garrett is thunderstorms and chaos. Their project is Sunny and Cloudy, a dating advice column where they give relationships tips to other teens. You'd think someone who calls herself an expert would shine here, right? But this is where the things get interesting. She realizes she's great at fixing other people's love problems, but she's terrible at looking honestly at her own life. The more she works with Garrett, the more the cracks she starts to see in her carefully structured world. She has always believed that success, reputation, and perfection were the most important things, especially in her Taiwanese American community, where everyone knows everyone's business. Her family's reputation already took a huge hit when her older sister was disowned, and she feels this pressure to make up for it by being the perfect daughter. She tries to be flawless, she tries to win, she tries to be exactly what everyone expects of her. But Garrett doesn't let her hide behind that. He pushes her, challenges her, and calls her out when she's being stubborn. And through all of their bickering and late night planning sessions, she begins to realize what she hasn't been honest with, not with others, not with her family, and definitely not with herself. What starts out as a competition slowly becomes something bigger. She is faced with the grief over losing her father, so she starts to question whether the future she's chasing is one that she truly wants. And she begins to see that having a voice isn't just about speaking confidently, it's about speaking truthfully. By the time the competition heats up, she isn't sure winning even matters anymore. Instead, she's learning how to define success in her own terms. She's learning how to express what she actually wants, not just what her community expects from her. And yes, There's a sweet, slow burn romance with Garrett that grows out of all their arguing and honesty. What I love about this book is that she doesn't just find her voice by suddenly becoming louder or more dramatic. She does it by becoming more real. With Garrett, with her friends, with her family, with herself, her journey feels genuine and emotional, and anyone who's ever felt crushed by pressure or expectations will relate. This was Asking for a Friend by Kara H.L. Chen. All three of these books, The Poet X, Please Pay Attention, and Asking for a Friend, follow teens figuring out who they are and learning to speak up in their own ways, whether it's through poetry, healing after trauma, or being honest about what you really want. Each of these characters learns that their voice has value, and that might be the biggest takeaway. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room to make an impact. You just have to be yourself. And most importantly, remember, your voice matters. This concludes my presentation. Muchas gracias.